Fun fact of the day, I was tempted to review this as part of last year's Halloween block. Why? Because let's be real here. Is there anything that's much scarier than the great meat grinder of life that we call nature? I don't think there is. Between sunburns and all the horrific things of the natural world that will end you just as soon as look at you, yeah, I think Pikmin qualifies as a horror title. This one in particular. So join me for a closer look at Pikmin 2. Greetings everyone, I am the hipster Snek, and today we're going to be talking about Pikmin 2. And for the sake of the footage that you'll be seeing on screen today, this is all coming from the original GameCube version, which came out in 2004, and is the iteration that I owned and played. Pikmin 2 did get re-released for the Wii New Play Control series in 2009, and then digitally re-released for the Wii U in 2017, and then once again on Switch in 2023. Which just goes to show that Pikmin fans can be pretty ride or die for this franchise. In fact, having picked up the first game pretty early in the GameCube's lifespan, I remember waiting on pins and needles for this sequel, which was delayed at least a couple times as my spotty 20-year-old memory serves. But I would say it was worth it, more on that momentarily. The game picks up right where the first one leaves off, with Captain Olimar escaping the distant planet and returning to his homeworld Hokotate, and yes, that is apparently how it's said, given that later generation Smash Bros. Games confirmed this, even though I will argue Hokotate Freight is much cooler sounding. Anyway, putting that aside, Olimar touches down and meets with his boss, who is just called the boss, and explains what happened. The boss only has more bad news for his employee, however, as it's mentioned to Olimar how his co-worker, the Lord of Darkness Louis, had his entire cargo of golden pick carrots eaten by a ravenous space bunny, sinking the company 10,000 Pokos into debt. Olimar's ship is even confiscated by the company. I'm not really sure what the legality of this is, given Olimar called it his ship, but details. Also, a trinket he brought back for his son as a souvenir of his journey on the distant planet is also taken, only to discover that it costs 100 Pokos, more than the ship apparently. Olimar then explains that the distant planet is simply littered with treasures such as these going spare, so the boss man packs his two employees into a much less nice ship and kicks them right back off-world again to become intergalactic treasure hunters in order to save their jobs and the company as a whole. As if nature itself wasn't horrifying enough, we're being forced into being corporatist wage slaves. Told you this was a horror game. And with that, the game begins. And to begin with, the game looks great. Even in the first version of this game, back in the humble purple lunchbox, they took everything the first game had done and amped it up, with each of the game's maps being based on a seasonal motif, with the prologue area being this beautiful, pristine, white winter wonderland. Not just that, but even the familiar faces, like the red Bulborb, seem to be a bit smoother and move in cleaner animations when compared to the first. Not to say that the newcomers to the cast don't shine too, with new and interesting enemies like the larval form of the armored cannon beetles and the brightly colored dweevils who you are sure to adore and not hate with every single fiber of your being. Stop dropping bomb rocks on me, you horrible spiders! I hate you so much! That therapy session aside, things in this game are brightly colored, much as they were in the first, like the Pikmin themselves. This helps newcomer players to associate the colored Pikmin with their respective powers. Red, yellow, and blue from the first game, and now two newcomers in white and purple Pikmin. These also include new types of enemies and obstacles that you'll be wielding them against. Point is, the game looks great and uses its overall world design to help steer you in generally the right direction at any given time. And of course, it sounds amazing. Much like the first game, the music tends to be reserved for rising tension, like in combat or boss encounters, and more natural ambience tend to waft over you as you move about the game's fields. The cave segments, more on these in a little, use low, ominous tracks to set the mood and boggle your brain as you encounter each floor and the threats that await you within each. The Pikmin cries are cheerful and cartoony as one should expect, with slight modifications for the two new colorative mins to add a little something extra, and the enemies make distinct telltale sounds to alert you to their patterns. Especially my mortal nemesis, the Gatling Groink, whose mechanical walking sound fills the hearts of even the hardiest of stalwart men with mortal terror. In fact, let's get into the gameplay segment because there's a lot to cover. So, Right out of the gate, Pikmin 2 expands as a sequel in a number of ways. The first being that you get 2 captains, obviously, which help you multitask with your squad or to serve as cover should one take extensive damage and you need to tag out. Both captains play in precisely the same manner, so you can really main whoever you want. Olimar, obviously. Next, while there is a daylight timer forcing Olimar and Louis and the Pikmin to fall back to base at the end of each night, the total maximum day timer is removed, allowing the player to approach the game at whatever pace they feel the most comfortable with, and facilitating a longer overall campaign experience. It also adds new exploration zones, the caves. These are underground zones with different themes and motifs, randomized in each playthrough to some extent. To make that mud a little clearer, the treasures and enemies you encounter on any given floor and the theme of the floor itself remain the same. The layout of the map and the location of said items and monsters is shaken up at the start of each new campaign. I've seen people online claim that this made them miss out on treasures or made things needlessly difficult, but in my many runs through the game, I've literally never seen this occur. Anecdotal evidence aside, I'm not sure if it can or can't. If a treasure does fall into the void below, it will automatically respawn somewhere on the same floor after just a moment. You cannot be locked out of 100% completion, near as I can tell. The Pikmin themselves are, of course, a main attraction and come in 5 flavors now. Red Pikmin have high attack stat and are immune to fire. Yellow Pikmin, who are the most inconsistent across this franchise, can be thrown slightly higher than any other type and are immune to electrical hazards. This is a pretty big deal as, unlike every other element in the game, electricity is automatically fatal to any Pikmin who are struck by it and aren't yellow. Bomb rocks are, mercifully, no longer something that you need to have your Pikmin precariously carry with you, and now just a stage hazard. Blue Pikmin don't drown in water and are immune to water-based attacks, making them must-haves for multiple puzzles and areas in the game. The newcomers, the purple Pikmin, are slow and super heavy, so they can't go particularly high when thrown. But they do have the highest raw attacking power and count for 10 Pikmin for purposes of lifting objects and weighted switch puzzles. And last but not least are the white Pikmin, who are small and fast. They are immune to poison traps and are themselves poisonous for predators to eat. They can also see buried treasures and help dig them up. Thankfully, that last one doesn't come into play too terribly often. However, the asterisk is that purple and white Pikmin do not have onions, the colored nests that the different tribes of Pikmin call home and normally grow their numbers in. Instead, you must find the subterranean candy pop buds. These are colored flowers, and any type of Pikmin thrown into them will be transformed into the type of Pikmin corresponding to the color of said flower. It is entirely possible to farm a limitless number of them in this fashion, but the added steps of inconvenience should incentivize smart use of these new colors. I think this balances their new abilities well, actually. More on this later. Anyway, each region and its respective cave systems are chock full of danger and treasure, and you must conquer each to repay the debt. And not to give too much away for a 20-year-old game, but there's still a lot to do even after you repay the initial 10,000 Poco debt. The captains can throw, guide, and direct Pikmin in order to attack enemies, solve puzzles, and remove obstacles from their path. When dismissed, they'll fall into idle squads made up of their own color, and you can recruit whoever you need to by walking into them or using your whistle to summon them. You can use the C-stick to move the squad around, you can rush enemies or surround treasures to carry home. You can also use this to narrow the squad behind you to get over top bridges without most of them nosediving into the water. Thank goodness most of the bridges in this game have safety rails. Throwing Pikmin can also be used to split the squad between your 2 captains, or used to get Pikmin safely atop a predator's back in order to attack it. Purple Pikmin will also slam down and stun larger enemies, or outright crush small ones below their bulk. Wait, Snek, I hear you cry. This sounds like a world of colorful whimsy and joy. Even the predators are these big, goofy-looking cartoon monsters. How on earth is this even a horror game? Ha ha ha, you fool. The caves open up unfathomable horror. Maybe you're just minding your own business, walking from one spot to another, and suddenly, boom, bomb rocks just rain from the sky. That's scary on its own, but it can get so much worse. Like Dweevil's carrying the bomb rocks raining from the sky, and then they actively chase after you, trying to blow you up entirely on purpose. Who designed that? Why? What was happening at home that made them do that? Oh, and don't get me started on the unbridled horror awaiting the bold adventurer who takes that plunge into the submerged castle. First time I played that, I swear my heart nearly stopped, doing me no favors that it was like midnight on a Saturday or something. And the Gatling groinks. My god, the Gatling groinks. Imagine a monster who's impervious to any direct assaults on his front face. He has a cannon that comes out of his mouth, and he fires on your active captain nonstop. Despite what the Piclopedia might lead you to believe, you can't stop him. You can merely try to attack him with limited resources and Pikmin and try not to lose huge numbers of your little plant-based troopers in its relentless barrages. Oh, and it gets worse. You fell the dread beast. It immediately starts trying to regenerate, and it'll get back up again if its health fills before you can stuff it into the onion or treasure ship. This hateful demon would be more at home in Earth Defense Force than Pikmin. Yes, this is a horror game, and its cutesy, colorful exterior exists purely to make you lower your guard. I had no idea this review was going to end up becoming a therapy session. Anyway, I know a lot of Pikmin 2's changes ended up a little bit divisive, but simply put, I love it. Having played all 4 Pikmin titles, and yes, there are only 4 Pikmin games, there was never a spin-off on that one handheld. What are you even talking about? I would say Pikmin 2 is probably my favorite of all of them. I love the caves, even knowing full well some of the traps are unfair. I love the enormous boss battles, knowing I can easily cheese them with spicy and bitter sprays. The fact that restocking purple and white Pikmin isn't punishing, but does force the player to deviate their plans is a good compromise from the generally limitless nature of their red, yellow, and blue cousins. And I'm going to diverge from my review formula here to talk about a certain thing because this irks the crap out of me. If you don't want to be a little bit spoiled for the next game in the series, go ahead and jump to the timestamp I have on screen, and I'll see you there. There are a lot of really great video essays on Pikmin as a franchise and each game. Much love to Scruffy and his amazing deep dives into these games in particular, but you know what really burns my cheese? People are always carrying on like, oh, purple Pikmin are super overpowered, or I'm glad purples are gone and replaced with rock Pikmin. Well, you all just hold your bulborbs for a moment there, pals, whatever. Because I'm here to argue that everything you say is really the reverse. Purple Pikmin are strong, of that there is no denying, but purples can be squashed, burned, drowned, electrocuted, poisoned. They're the only color of Pikmin who lack any elemental immunity whatsoever. Yes, they can stun enemies, and their throw arc has some homing element to it, but they're far from perfect. Rock Pikmin, the once oft praised as purple's more balanced replacement, completely trivializes Pikmin 3. There is almost no situation in 3 that isn't beaten with 100 rock Pikmin and the charge button. They can't be squashed, not even by titans like the Queen Bullblacks. Cannot be pierced by needle-like mouthparts. You can completely make a joke out of otherwise troublesome encounters like members of the Biggie Longlegs family by using nothing but rocks. Their immunity to being flattened simply makes it so that the boss is utterly powerless, and to top it all off, they have their own onion, so farming an army of them is easy. Everything you people say about purples is actually true of their rocky cousins. Purple Pikmin are good and wonderful, and I love them. If you insist on speaking ill of them, I'm going to need to ask you to step outside, good sir. Or sirs, whatever. Interest of fairness, I'll revisit this when I get around to doing Pikmin 3. But there is a lot to be said for game balance there, and also I thought it might be funny if I had a little rant about this. You know. Tell me what you think in the comments. Anyway, that's just sort of the thing in general. Pikmin 2 has some nasty fangs, and it isn't afraid to be a little unfair. But honestly, I appreciate that. It gives more tension to the moment-to-moment gameplay, and it makes moving further down a cave dwelling that much more tense. Sure, you can stay between floors and rewind if something goes awry, but you can always do that day to day in all 4 games. It's the same thing, so who cares? Constant danger found in Pikmin 2 makes it thrilling for me to play and bring my A game every single time. Monsters are dangerous, the environment can be dangerous, messing up and throwing a single Pikmin spiraling into the eternal void, never to be seen again. The world is dangerous, and I feel the overall gameplay experience benefits from this risk-reward factor. Pikmin 2 perfectly embodies the mixture of danger and opportunity being 2 sides of the same coin. I'd argue better than any other game in the series thus far, in fact. And that's my final word on this outstanding title. This has been the traumatized Captain Snek, bringing this classic gem back to light. What did you guys think? Do you love Pikmin 2 too? Maybe you like another installment more? Tell me about it in the comment section down below. Leave a like and maybe subscribe if you haven't, or if you just really enjoyed my ranting this time. I was kind of going for a new thing in case you didn't notice. There's more like this each week, including the amazing Tomodachi Bros podcast show, here and on our plethora of social media links in every video description, every video, every time, no exceptions. And continue joining me here each week, and I will see you there.